Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. The Biden presidency is sinking like the Titanic. And there we have it. Joe at the front of the sinking ship, joined by Nancy and the rest of the corporate ghouls in the Democratic Party. And Jake Tapper of CNN, no, not so critical of the Democrats ever. Even Jake, ever so gingerly, asked a Democratic Party operative on TV, on CNN, maybe it's time for another candidate. Well, that Democratic Party operative was not having it. Let's take a look.
I mean, your guy's losing to him.
By voters, right? And by polls.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what more Joe Biden can do to remind people what is at stake, right? That's the State of the Union theme, soul of democracy, constantly talking about the battle for the soul of the country on the world stage. There is a responsibility for everybody else to also take the challenge just as seriously as the Democratic Party is in the White House right now.
I mean, I know incumbents in general are not popular right now, but do you ever think maybe we should have a new candidate?
No. A new candidate would not have the bully pulpit of the White House, right? Would not have a core of reporters that are covering his every move, which I would ask, as we discuss this here and just let slide that Trump is close enough in age to Biden, and also that Trump's speeches are largely incoherent and have been from the jump, but like somehow that narrative is the Biden narrative here. I do think that the benefit that he has is as we get closer to the day, and as you said, people pay attention, that the difference will become clear, but I'm hanging on to hope here.
Hanging on to hope. Isn't that the truth? That Democratic operative who's probably overpaid with the rest of the consultants and the racket, which is the corporate political industrial complex, Democrat, Republican Party, it's all consultants. They all are overpaid and give terrible advice because they're paid to be disconnected with the American people. Add her to the sinking Titanic. I just love that image Colin made. Maybe, just maybe, the issue is this particular president has the bully pulpit. Maybe, just maybe, the issue is Americans want to hear and see less of Joe. I don't mean that in a negative way, but he's not really communicating as if he's ready for prime time, or shall I say he's past his prime. He can't deliver a message that is going to excite the young people fleeing Joe Biden like the Titanic, like they're on the Titanic. He cannot communicate or inspire a lot of the black voters who are choosing now in polls not to vote for Joe Biden, Hispanic voters who are now moving over to the right. He can't do it, not only because of his age, but he doesn't really have much to sell them. The neoliberal bubble is popping. You can't really sell them on, well, we lowered child poverty for a year, but I wasn't willing to fight President Manchin on extending the child tax credit. So I let that child tax credit, which actually helped people, I let it expire without fighting President Manchin or Sinema. You can't really sell people on the infrastructure deal, which was really a privatization scheme that's not materially benefiting the people working 2 to 3 jobs, or 64% of Americans who are living paycheck to paycheck. The infrastructure deal isn't changing their lives. You can't really, on your bully pulpit, talk about lowering healthcare costs, because the lowering of healthcare costs that you're claiming is really only for seniors, and the broader lowering of prescription drug prices doesn't start until 2026, and it's only for 10 drugs, but it does fit on a bumper sticker. There's no immediate relief for the people that you can go and use the bully pulpit of the White House to run on. You abandoned a $15 minimum wage, which at this point is the conservative position. We have to start talking at a $25 minimum wage if we're being serious when you're looking at inflation since the 1970s. He abandoned a public option. Stopped talking about it after he won election. A public option wasn't good enough. By the way, he's continued a lot of Trump's policies of backdoor trying to privatize Medicare through Medicare access and all these things, which luckily the people of New York City fought back against Democratic Mayor Eric Adams, who is trying that crap of trying to privatize seniors' Medicare. I mean, we could go down the list. He can't really get on the bully pulpit and talk about all the great climate proposals he's done, because he's doubled drilling on public lands, which he ran on stopping. And he instead of claiming a climate emergency, he did a press conference announcing cooling centers. Yes, we know about student loan debt, et cetera, et cetera. So if the Democratic Party, if that is their most brilliant operatives, and they think the real problem, the reason we need to keep Biden is because he has the bully pulpit, I actually think the fact that he has the bully pulpit is hurting him more. And by the way, the polls are getting worse, particularly among younger voters. Washington Post: fewer young Americans plan to vote in 2024, Harvard Youth Poll finds. Fewer voters under the age of 30 plan to vote in the upcoming presidential election than did at this point in the 2020 election. And less than 1/3 of those who identify as independents definitely plan to participate. The new Harvard Youth Poll. Oh, my Lord. A potential decline in participation by younger voters could hurt Biden next year in a hypothetical matchup against former President Trump, given Biden draws more support from that demographic. But the poll released by the Institute of Politics at the Harvard Kennedy School on Tuesday shows larger declines in planned participation among young Republicans and independents than young Democrats. Overall, the number of Americans between 18 and 19 years old who definitely plan to vote for president decreased from 57% to 49% in a poll at a similar point in the 2020 election. That is a 8-point drop in terms of younger voters 18 to 29 who are planning to vote in the 2024 election. And by the way, those are the voters that put Democrats over the top in the midterm elections, the 18 to 29-year-olds. Among Democrats in that demographic, that figure is now 66%, nearly identical to 4 years ago. Among Republicans, the figure is 56%, down 10 percentage points. And among independents, the current figure is 31%, also a 10-point drop. That is the key. When you have young independent voters drop it a 10-point drop, those are the voters that likely voted for Biden in 2020 and are now saying they ain't showing up. The small percentage of independents who definitely plan to vote is particularly striking because more voters under the age of 30 identifies independents than Democrats or Republicans. The poll also shows pronounced declines in voting intention compared to the 2020 cycle among younger Black voters, Hispanic voters, and women voters. The younger cohort of 18 to 24-year-olds is also less likely than participates age 25 to 29 to be planning to vote. So Gen Z is telling Biden, to hell with you. And by the way, this comes after that New York Times Siena poll of a few weeks ago, where literally Biden and Trump were tied basically 1 point. So that's margin of error. Biden 47, Trump 46, 18 to 29-year-old voters. Now, I'm not saying this is the only voter group that matters. Obviously, all voters matter. But on the margins in Michigan, on the margins in Wisconsin, on the margins in Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, younger voters matter. Younger voters of color matter. Black voters of all age matter. And I don't think the problem is that, oh, the Democrats are just not messaging properly. They say that every election as to why they're not doing it. It's they never fought for, and Biden never fought for the actual policies that would be popular to message. The message, you don't have to have great messaging if the policy actually helps people. You think Bernie's Medicare for All policy or messaging was Shakespearean? No, but the policy was wildly popular. Same thing with Andrew Yang and UBI, even though I wasn't a big fan of him. It was wildly popular. It wasn't his messaging that won people over. It was the policy. Imagine if Biden immediately in his presidency passed the $15 minimum wage. Imagine if Biden fought to extend the child tax credit, or fought for it to not be a year, or fought to put it in the original COVID bill for longer than 1 year. Could have put it in there for his entire presidency, 4 years. Imagine if he fought to end the filibuster. Imagine if he fought to cancel student loan debt, way more than $10,000. Imagine if he publicly used the bully pulpit that this Democratic operative is talking about against Biden, against Manchin, against Sinema. Imagine if he used the bully pulpit against Amazon for their union busting, Starbucks for their union busting, which largely their workforce is younger. You might have significantly different polls right now. But hey, when you have even Jake Tapper and CNN kind of sort of gingerly asking Democratic operatives, maybe it's time to, throw in the towel here. Maybe it's time to take Biden out, insert their preferred candidate, who obviously is Gavin Newsom. That's when you know we've hit the iceberg. Again, love the graphic.